If you are going to be a hitman, you need to be cool, calm, and calculating. The last thing you need is a big mouth. But LINDSEY Robert Rose had got away with at least 5 murders over 10 years and was not even a suspect until a corrupt police officer, an associate of Rose, told detectives in New South Wales that he had boasted of at least 2 murders. That was the beginning of his downfall. Born LINDSEY Robert Lehman in North Sydney, Australia in 1955, his parents separated before he was born, and he took the surname Rose from his stepfather after his mother remarried. He served an apprenticeship as a fitter and turner before joining the New South Wales Ambulance Service in 1976. The following year, he was one of the first responders at the Granville train disaster, when 84 people died and 213 were injured. He quit the ambulance service in 1979 to become a licensed private eye. This was largely a cover for his criminal career. His beginnings in the business were shady enough. Then, on the 20th of January 1984, he broke into the home of Edward John Bill Kavanagh in Sydney's Hoxton Park and shot him dead, ostensibly for beating up one of Rose's friends a few years earlier. Rose also killed Kavanagh's girlfriend, Carmelita Lee, so there would be no witnesses. The truth was, this was a gangland hit. Kavanagh was running a trucking business with drugs baron Robert Trimble, who was later accused of organizing the contract killing of anti-drugs campaigner Donald Mackay by a royal commission. The Honorable Justice Philip Woodward, presiding, found that Trimble was in charge of the production of marijuana in Griffith and had set Mackay up by luring him to the town of Jerilderie. The disposal of Mackay was the result of an organized plan, he said. He was disposed of by the organization which I find existed in Griffith. I am satisfied that the appointment to meet Mackay at Jerilderie was part of a plan to ambush and dispose of him. Born to Calabrian parents, Trimble lived in a mansion in Griffith known as the Grass Castle, no doubt a reference to the fact that he was the godfather of the marijuana trade. Mackay disappeared from a hotel car park after having drinks with friends. His body has never been found. At the scene of his disappearance, his locked van had bloodstains on the door, wheel rim, mudguard, and tire, and his car keys, and 3 spent .22 casings were found. Tipped off about his impending arrest, Trimble fled, dying in Spain in 1987. 3 years after the murders of Bill Kavanagh and Carmelita Lee, Rose was burgling the home of wealthy businessman William Bill Graff in the Sydney suburb of West Ryde. He was disturbed by Graff's girlfriend, Raynette Holford. Before making his escape, he stabbed her over 30 times with a vegetable knife and a screwdriver, leaving her tied up. She died from her injuries. Again, no inconvenient witnesses remained. Then, on the 14th of February 1994, Rose shot and killed Fatma Ozanal, then shot and stabbed to death his former lover Kerry Pang at Pang's massage parlor, Kerry's Oasis, in Gladesville, New South Wales. Knowing that Pang would not let him in, Rose offered Ronald Waters $500 to knock on the door so he could gain entry. The murder had been ordered by Pang's partner, Mark Lewis, because of difficulties in their relationship, and Lewis did not like the line of work she was in. Rose disliked Pang too. Ozonal was not part of the murder plan and was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. After the police came to question Rose, in 1996, he disappeared. Detectives flew from Sydney to Perth, where his wife then lived after leaving Sydney 3 years earlier. His 12-year-old daughter Elisha was also questioned about what she remembered of her father and the contact they'd had in recent years. Later, she discovered the truth on the nightly news. I learnt my father was accused of murder as I knelt on the mat in our lounge room, watching the Sydney evening news that was aired late at night in Perth, she said. I remember the burnt orange patterned curtains that hung on either side of the TV. I remember holding on to the old steamer trunk that belonged to my great-great-grandmother that served the dual purpose of coffee table and as storage for my old baby clothes. Most of all, I remember being in utter disbelief, in a truly life-changing shock. Soon afterwards, she and her mother had another visit from the police. On this occasion, I was told that there had been threats to kill me as an act of vengeance against my father, Alicia said. I would enter witness protection. I was given emergency phone numbers. My mom made special arrangements with school. I was not to be left alone. Rose had left Sydney and made for Adelaide in South Australia, where he found work under his original name, Lehman. He was on the run for 40 weeks until a member of the public recognized him from a mugshot shown on TV news. My father was ultimately arrested after nearly 12 months on the run, said Alicia. He announced to his colleagues at a dredging project in Adelaide that he wouldn't be at work that day as he was handcuffed and dragged away by police and the Tactical Response Group. Returned to New South Wales, he pleaded guilty to 5 murders. Described as an absolute clinical psychopath, he was sentenced to 5 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Later, he was given another 40 years after confessing to conspiracy to pervert the course of justice, malicious wounding, larceny, supplying a prohibited drug, robbery, kidnapping, and robbery while armed. On New Year's Day in 1983, Rose and criminal associates had hijacked a semi-trailer containing cigarettes valued at $600,000 and held 2 truck drivers hostage for several hours. Mark Lewis was later sentenced to life imprisonment plus 18 years without the possibility of parole for the murder of Pang and the manslaughter of Ozanal. Waters pleaded guilty to being an accessory to murder and was sentenced to 18 months periodic detention. Rose was one of the first 6 inmates of Goulburn Jail's high-risk management unit after it was opened in 2001. He complained about the number of inmates converting to Islam and the lack of educational opportunities, particularly after prisoners were deprived of the use of computers. Rose was one of several inmates who had smuggled out letters of complaint against a range of conditions at the jail. It said that education was virtually non-existent in the HRIU, High Risk Management Unit. Many inmates do not complete courses as they are thwarted by perfunctory teachers or ridiculous decisions. Example: an inmate in another part of the prison is caught with contraband on a computer. The Department of Corrective Services ban all computers, effectively putting inmates back to the Stone Age. For his daughter, Alicia Rose, the suffering went on. Life continued despite the upheaval, except that I carried a secret with me everywhere. My father killed 5 people, she said. She studied law at university and then went on to specialize in criminal justice. In an attempt to understand her father, she wrote letters to him in jail and even visited him, but she couldn't shake off the feeling that it was somehow her duty to try and atone for what her father had done. I felt an immeasurable weight on my shoulders, and like I owed a debt to society far beyond the usual karmic balance one must try to keep even. Ms. Rose told ABC's Australian Story. The harder I tried to understand my father's actions and to make sense of my life, the more complex and intricate the puzzle became. I visited my father and exchanged letters with him, read books on forensic psychology, attended counseling, and eventually completed a master's in criminal justice. The only thing that made sense to me for a long time was that my father had created an imbalance in this world by killing innocent people. My duty was to balance the scales. No matter that the debt was not mine, I knew I had to right his wrongs. The last time she saw her father was in April 2009. On the same trip to the Goulburn Supermax prison, she was admitted to the Supreme Court of New South Wales. It was then that she discovered that she could never accept her father's excuses for his actions, she said. She established herself as a litigation lawyer in Perth and involved herself in charity work. The older I became, the more I understood about life, the deeper the secret about my father was buried. A few of my nearest and dearest friends knew of my father, but I had no idea how to navigate the reveal to my wider circle of friends and colleagues. She said, "There is no social convention for announcing your father killed 5 people, and never quite the right time to drop it into conversation." 20 years after Rose had been convicted, Alicia was approached by an author who was writing a book about her father's crimes, and took the opportunity to finally unburden herself. Author Campbell McConaughey had known her father. They had met in a bar in Sydney, and he knew a little about his colorful past, but nothing of the murders. In Supermax prison, McConaughey conducted 25 interviews with Rose about his crimes and his life. Rose told him he trusted him to tell his story properly, and took issue with his previous portrayal as a hitman. The book is called The Fatalist,